Well, hello, and welcome to Tom Rhodes Radio Smart Camp. Wow, where do we start today? Happy summertime, everybody. Hopefully you've got lots of fresh summer fruits. Yesterday I had a mango and a peach, and I cut them up, and I was going back and forth, mango to peach, mango to peach. It was so exhilarating. And I did laundry all day yesterday. I actually sat on my balcony in my underwear because I was washing everything in my house. No one could see me. I've got like a wall balcony thing. But, it's a nice, happy summer moment to sit in your underwear and eat summer fruits in your underwear in the sunshine. So I got a nice, I heard from some of my lovely Patreon supporters in the last couple days. Peter in Manchester, Nick in Tucson, and Ziggy in Portland, and that reminded me, hey, I need to put out a podcast. And none of them said anything about me not putting out a podcast. I love my Patreon supporter family, and that I've got a communicating relationship with everybody who donates to the podcast. And I'm eternally grateful to every one of you. And yeah, it's been strange. My mom left 2 weeks ago, and I miss her, and I'm lonely. And, there were certain rituals, like every morning, I got 2 drawers full of T-shirts that, I've collected from all over the world, and then concert shirts from years gone by. And every day my mom would wear a different one of my T-shirts. So I miss coming down in the morning and seeing what of my silly T-shirt collection my mom would be wearing. It was always cute. And then also we listened to Willie Nelson to start the day. I didn't realize I was such a Willie Nelson fan, but I guess I am, because I saw Willie Nelson 15 years ago at the Hollywood Bowl. And he was amazing. I didn't realize he's such a electrifying guitar player. And he uses the same guitar he's been using for 40 years or however long. It's an old beat-up guitar, and he plays the shit out of it. And then about 10 years ago, I went to Willie Nelson's 4th of July picnic in Austin. And that was really cool. Ray Price opened for him, David Allan Coe. And it's interesting. I really, since my mom and I watched the Ken Burns country music documentary, just started playing a lot of country music records that I had. And in the morning, I would put on the Willie Nelson album. This was when my mom was here. We had a nice little ritual going in the morning. I'd put on the Willie Nelson record, City of New Orleans. And it opens with that song. And in that song, it says, "Good morning, America, how are you? Don't you know me? I'm your native son." Really great, happy album. And then I'd put on the Willie Nelson Half Nelson album, which starts out with the song Poncho and Lefty, which is a great song. And then the last song on side 1 is a duet he did with Mel Tillis called Texas on a Saturday Night. There's nothing quite like Texas on a Saturday night. It's a really, really, really fun, happy song. Everybody's going to San Antonio on a Saturday night. So, really interesting how for the last couple months with my mom here, I was playing the shit out of these Willie Nelson albums. And I love Redheaded Stranger. That album is amazing. And Stardust and Always on My Mind. So those were the records that I had. And then it must have been Willie Nelson came out with a brand new record on July 3rd, and it's called First Rose of Spring. Now, it either had to be that day or the next day or a few days. My mother and I went into Barnes & Noble, and I was like, oh shit, look, there's a brand new Willie Nelson record. And I have been playing the living shit out of this Willie Nelson record all month. And I think it's the best thing he's ever done. It's kind of like the album from an older man's perspective. And he does a bunch of covers. And there's a song on there, and it absolutely kills me. And I found out that it's a cover of a Johnny Paycheck song. And Johnny Paycheck did that song, "Take this job and shove it. I ain't working here no more," which, redneck, hillbilly, anti-capitalist classic. I mean, he must have been reading some Marx before he wrote that song. But there's this song, and it's on this new Willie Nelson record. That's where I learned about the record, and it's called "I'm the Only Hell My Mama Ever Raised." Listen, I'm going to read you the lyrics. I can't speak highly enough about this record and Willie Nelson, who I didn't realize I was such a fan of. But listen to this. This is "I'm the Only Hell My Mama Ever Raised." I can tell my mama's short on loving me. I guess that's why she let me go so far. Mama tried to stop me short of stealing. I guess that's why I had to steal that car. She told me not to smoke it, but I did. And it took me far away. And I turned out to be the only hell my mama ever raised. This is the part, this is the paragraph that kills me. This is like the greatest country music paragraph ever. Well, I rolled into Atlanta, stolen tags, and almost out of gas. I had to get some money. Lately, I'd learned how to get it fast. Those neon lights were calling me, and somehow I just had to get downtown. So I reached into the glove box. Another liquor store went down. Wow, that's country music. And I said, "Precious memories, take me back to the good old days. Let me hear my mama sing, Rock of Ages cleft for me. She tried to turn me on to Jesus, but I turned on to the devil's ways, and I turned out to be the only hell my mama ever raised. Well, they put them handcuffs on me. Lord, how I fought to resist, but the agent clamped 'em tighter till that metal bit into my wrist. They took my belt and my billfold, my fingerprints and the profile of my face, and then they locked away the only hell my mama ever raised." And then it repeats the refrain. Wow. That's a badass record. That's a badass country song. I called my friend Faye Woodruff yesterday. I haven't talked to Faye in about a month. Faye was the woman I've talked about many times. I've had her on the podcast twice, I think. She used to tour the Southern circuits, and her moniker was the grandmother from hell. And just the most Southern. She was from Nashville. She is from Nashville. Just such a country, beautiful accent. And I've written and talked so much about Faye Woodruff, and she's having some problems with her heart. She got, she's very vulnerable in today's COVID-19 thing, and she's pretty much staying inside. So I'm trying to think of her and reach out to her. And I think that's a really good thing to do now, is to reach out to people who you think, people who you care about, who you think might be spending a little too much time by themselves. Like Tom Rhodes right now. I've spent 2 weeks by myself. Anyway, Faye Woodruff, her husband, is buried in the cemetery in Nashville, a short, 10 steps from Marty Robbins, the big country singer, and his wife is buried next to, Marty Robbins' wife is buried next to him, and she, on her grave, is the lyrics to his song, "My Woman, My Wife." It's a pretty cool cemetery. So I was talking to Faye yesterday, and I was telling her about this song, and how it's a Johnny Paycheck song, and it just knocks me out, the lyrics to it. And she said that George Jones also owns a plot in that cemetery in Nashville, and George Jones is buried there, but she said that Johnny Paycheck was completely penniless when he died, and George Jones paid for his grave. So pretty cool shit. I love going to graveyards and visiting the graves of people I admire. Joe Woodruff, Faye Woodruff's husband, is the number one guy for me in that cemetery. But anyway, yeah, the greatest George Jones country song, "If Drinking Don't Kill Me, Her Memory Will." So there you have it. Anyway, yeah, I just wanted to put some love in your eardrums today, and I've been so busy since my mom left. The last 4 months, I've been working on the new album, The Honky Motherland, which I recorded last year in England, Ireland, and Scotland, and I'm nearing the finish line. And it's so great to listen to these tracks. I finished Nottingham, or Nottingham, and a track called Lord Byron Road. I'm very, very, very happy with how this album is sounding. And then the other thing that I've just finished is the first draft of my book, of my best travel stories of traveling the world and everything. So my friend Gil King, who's also been on this podcast, he won the Pulitzer Prize. For his book, Devil in the Grove, but I started doing open mic nights in Orlando with Gil when I started. So I've known this guy forever, and he's been helping me, edit out things that don't pertain to the story, and just basically helping me, guide me through this process. And I think I've really put this time not doing stand-up, which is really strange for me not to get on stage, and I really miss telling jokes in front of crowds of people. So this podcast right now in your eardrums, this is my only lifeline to sanity. Anyway, so I really put my head down. I've been working my ass off since my mom left, and let me read to you. So the book is going to start in Amsterdam when I had the late night talk show, and the last chapter is the story about taking my mom to Jerusalem. And I wanted to include this story. So a lot of these stories I wrote years ago, right after things happened to me. And after I had the late night talk show in Amsterdam, the same network let me be a presenter on a travel show for Dutch television called You're in Travel. And because that was the network, You're In. And when I got back, I kept notes. I'd be exhausted. I'd be filming all day. And I had my little notebook, and I'd scribble down notes. And then when I got back to Amsterdam after filming, I sat down with my notes, and I didn't leave the apartment for a couple days, and I just wrote out everything that happened to me. So I want to read you this part of the story that I wrote, and I wrote this in 2003. So I'm just so happy that I knew these things were important when they happened to me, and that I actually sat down and wrote about it. So we went all over Peru, and we went on to Lake Titicaca. We took a boat. Here you go. I'll just read you the... Okay, I'll read you these 2 days. September 25th, 2003. We were up at the crack of dawn again today to be at the port of Puno on Lake Titicaca. We are going to spend the night with an indigenous family on Amintani Island on Lake Titicaca. At the port, Vito was our guide. I wish I could find this guy. His name was Vito Dijkstra. Dijkstra, D-Y-S-T, however you spell it. I've searched him on Facebook. This guy was such a cool guy. He was like the Indiana Jones of Holland. And he had lived in... It was kind of the same story he had in Peru that I had in Holland. He had moved to Peru for a love story, and it didn't work out. But he fell in love with the country, and he decided to stay. And the only difference is he actually learned the Spanish language. And he learned the native Indian language also. Okay. At the port, Vito advised us to buy lots of fruit and pasta for the people because those things are hard to come by on the island, and we promptly followed his advice. He said that they love fruit the most, so since I am from Florida, I bought a big bag of oranges to bring as my gift to them. The weather has gone our way the whole trip, and the boat ride was under beautiful clear blue skies. Our boat was slow cutting through the reeds. Then we broke free of the reeds into the clear, silver, metallic blue waters, with the snow-capped mountains of Bolivia visible on the far side. The Incas believed that all life began from Lake Titicaca, and on the shores all around it, the agricultural terracing of the Incas impressively stand the test of time, making you ponder the magnificence of how massive that empire was. On Amintani Island itself, there is no electricity, and people are living as they did over 1,000 years ago. It's hard to believe that these are the direct descendants of the Inca, but they are. When our boat arrived at the dock of our destination, the families that would be lodging us were there to greet us. Vito greeted them, and once it was designated which family each of us would stay with, the mother of the home where I would be staying came at me quickly and took the bag of oranges out of my hands. She tore open the bag right there on the dock and pulled out an orange. You should have seen this woman eat that orange. All thoughts of anything else left her mind, and she was fully focused on that orange. I want to live my life the way that woman ate that orange. She made passionate love to it. I felt as if I were watching something intensely intimate, and I was. I say I want to live my life the way that woman ate that orange because she devoured it with love and didn't miss a drop. She even licked a stray drop that tried to run down her wrist, and as a lover of life and oranges myself, it spread the widest smile across my face. Our group broke up into pairs of 2, and each went off with a different family to spend the night. Vito and I were a team and followed the mother clinging to the bag of oranges I brought. Not only does Vito speak Spanish, he is also trying to speak the native Indian language of Quechuan. We sat in the dirt floor kitchen as the mom cooked, and her 2 daughters eagerly helped her with everything. I worried that I might get sick because of the eggshells and chicken shit on the dirt floor. I thought that if I was going to get food poisoning on this trip, it was going to be right here and now. But I ate every bite out of politeness. And of course, it was all delicious and I felt fine after. It was so cold that night, I couldn't sleep even though I was fully dressed with 2 coats on. Vito snored all night and kept mumbling and moaning something about someone named Veronica. September 26, 2003. The next morning was the highlight of the whole trip, because the whole village gathered in their best clothes to perform the ancient ceremony to Pachamama. Pachamama is Mother Earth, and this ceremony is the one true belief and ritual that goes back to the Incas and is still performed today. The Incas considered themselves children of the sun, and they worshipped Mother Earth because she fed them. It wasn't the time of year when they celebrate their most sacred ceremony, but because of our television cameras, they wanted us to show it to the world. We all gathered in a field, and the elder men put down blankets, dug up small pieces of earth, and planted white flags. In a colorful cloth bag, a coca leaf representing each person present was placed in the bag. The bag was then held up to the sky with much chanting and praying from the elder men. The bag was then passed around the circle, and each person got to say a prayer when it got to them. When the bag got to me, this is the prayer that I said. Thank you, God, for such a beautiful earth with so many beautiful people on it. May we all live in peace with lots of laughter. When I passed the bag on and looked up, Martin, the sound man, had tears running down his face. The power of this moment was overwhelming, and I trembled for humanity as I looked at the sacred scene I was taking part in. The sun sparkled on the massive lake that surrounded us on this privileged spot where beauty enveloped us and hugged us like a warm, soft blanket. Renee, our camera woman, was a beauty to watch as she spun and moved, capturing it all on film, from the elder men at the center to the giggling young girls at the edges. And after everyone had said a prayer, the bag was placed on a cone of cow shit and set on fire. The experience was humbling, and what a gift it was for these people to give us this once-in-a-lifetime thrill. All of it gloriously caught on film for the enjoyment of the people back home in Holland. Walking away from it, I felt something inside me change. It was the feeling of pride that can never be taken from me. Tears swelled in my eyes at the thought that I had ever felt myself to be worthless, as every creature on this little blue marble of earth is valuable and fits into the puzzle somehow. These people were dirt poor, but they were all happy and had abundant amounts of humor. Back in the ostensibly civilized world, people get so stressed and angry over the smallest little things, like traffic lights and long lines. The most overwhelming impression I have of the people of Amintani Island is that they seemed to have no evil in their hearts. Ta-da! So that's just a little taste of my Peru chapter. Yeah, that was interesting, that ceremony where everybody in the village came out. I'll never forget it because, I've always admired Native Americans, and I've read so much about like Crazy Horse and Sitting Bull, Chief Joseph, the Seminole Indian tribe. I really get off on that stuff. And, years ago, maybe it was an outdated book or just an outdated opinion I had heard, that Native Americans didn't like to have their photos taken because they thought that it stole their soul or a piece of their soul or something. So, I had that misinformation in my head. And it was interesting that here were these native people of Peru who were the direct descendants of the Incas, and they heard that we were with this travel show, and they all dressed up in their best ceremonial clothes, and they did their sacred ritual to Pachamama because they didn't want us to miss it. And they wanted us to film it so that people around the world could see it. So just funny, the misinformation that sometimes gets in your head. Anyway, I'm so glad I wrote this story. And that woman eating the orange, I think I've told that story a lot on this podcast, but there it is. That's how it happened and when it happened. And that's the way I want to live. That's the way I want to enjoy my summer fruit. And that is what I've been working on for the past couple weeks, is just kind of tightening up these stories for the book. So my friend Gil thinks that, he said I've got like 100,000 words of all these stories, and a lot of these stories were written years ago. But the next step is to write a book proposal and then start submitting it to see if it could get published. So I'll be really thrilled that in the disaster year of 2020, I put out an album and finished a book. So that's what I've been doing the last couple weeks, everybody. And, I forgot to tell one funny story about my mom. When we were playing Willie Nelson, my mom, I asked her, I said, "Did you like Willie Nelson?" And she said, "No, to be honest with you, I never liked that 7 dirty words thing that he did." And I said, 7 dirty words? It turned out my mom thought that George Carlin was Willie Nelson. George Carlin had that famous bit of the 7 dirty words that you can't say on television. And my mom, they look similar. They're white guys with beards. I guess, God, I got a beard now. I guess I look like Willie Nelson. Did I mention I haven't had a haircut in 4 months? And I'm loving it. It's cool to see the natural growth of things, like the plants on my balcony. My balcony gardening has also been one of the happy highlights of my summer. But my mom thought Willie Nelson was George Carlin, and I I don't think it's, who knows when I'll ever perform on stage again. And it's like one of those things that I don't think it's funny enough to do on stage, but to tell you on the podcast, I think it's hilarious. Like, if you just add the 7 dirty words to any Willie Nelson song, you were always on my mind. You were always on my mind. Piss, shit, cocksucker, fuck, motherfucker, piss, damn, hell. It's a funny game to play. So, my mom and I watched this movie, The Wrong Missy, before she left. I wanted to start watching comedies, and there's the world is gripped with this virus crisis, but the United States is really coming unglued right now. People shopping with Nazi masks on in Minnesota. The unmarked Trump stormtroopers with these black uniforms and no name tags or badges sweeping in and just like grabbing protesters off the street in Portland and putting them in unmarked vans and holding them and like you don't get any paperwork. That's not the United States, and that's not democracy, and that's not how things work. So aside from that the coronavirus is so out of control right now that, I mean, it's been a few weeks, but like I don't think there's any other country that would accept people coming from the United States right now. Oh, here's a misinformation thing. It came out yesterday or the day before that John Muir, like right north of San Francisco in Marin County, is Muir Woods, which is this great little cluster of redwood trees. It's named after him. John Muir was the guy that got the national parks designated in the United States. And the first national parks were Yosemite National Park, which my mother still pronounces as Yosemite, and Sequoia National Park, where I just took my mom. So this article said that John Muir had referred to black people as Sambos. And Sambo is like a racist term. It comes from a children's book from, I think, the 1890s sometime. And people were upset that this guy in the 1890s or 1910s, whenever John Muir was designating the national parks, had referred to black people as Sambos. And my first thought was, I don't think a lot of people remember, but in the United States, the chain Denny's, it's this diner that's all over the United States, they used to be called Sambos. And so I told my girlfriend, and she looked it up. Apparently they were never owned by the same people, but they were a lot of the Denny's chain. And I remembered as a kid seeing the Sambos sign and the restaurants that are now Denny's. They used to be called Sambos. So apparently they weren't owned by the same people. And she investigated it further that in Santa Barbara, California, where I just took my mom, there was one Sambos left. So before there was Denny's, this national chain all over America was called Sambos, which is a racial slur. I think the character was like kind of easily afraid, and he was dim-witted and couldn't take care of himself. It just like the worst kind of racial stereotype of people was this term Sambos, and that there was all this massive chain. So anyway, it could be argued that it wasn't actually the Denny's Corporation, but a lot of these buildings that stand as Denny's, some of them used to be called Sambos. However you want to slice it, and in Santa Barbara, California, there was one Sambos left. And the owner was holding on to the name, and he wanted to franchise it. This is the little research my girlfriend and I did right before I recorded this. And then they just decided in June 2020 to change the name of the last Sambos, which is in Santa Barbara. Can you imagine? It took them until June 2020 when like So the riots were May 30th, and then people were tearing shit up for weeks. I mean, and they probably just changed the name because they were afraid that people were going to break their windows and set the place on fire. Wow. Interesting times. And, you know, the stuff that's happening in Portland is interesting because my girlfriend lives in Portland, and that's where I've read so many opinion pieces about it. Somebody was saying that these people shouldn't riot because it's just giving Trump the video footage that he wants so he can make his commercial of he's the law and order president, and he sent in these these black-clad, nameless enforcers to break up these riots. That it plays into Trump's hand that he can get the footage to make his propaganda to his base, that he's such a great dominator of the battle space, his words. But then again, it makes me think about 1968 when this country was coming unglued. I was 1 year old, so I only know it retrospectively how, you know, there was the shooting in Kent State and the National Guard shot these students and there was fires and riots and all this shit. As fucked up as the country was then, the Vietnam War ultimately stopped because people realized that it was a gross injustice and horrific atrocities were happening there. So I don't know if it's a bad thing that people are tearing shit up in Portland. It's interesting because obviously this country is not doing too good right now, and the virus is I don't know. It doesn't look like a Democratic hoax anymore, shall we say. Well, that's enough of my news segment. Let's talk about movies. Yeah, my mom and I watched this movie, The Wrong Missy, with David Spade, and it's a Netflix comedy. And this woman who stars in the movie, Lauren Lapkus, holy shit. This woman is so funny. The premise of the movie is great, and God, what a great actress she is. And since I saw it, I've seen her pop up in a bunch of other things, and apparently she was in Orange is the New Black. But I just thought that this woman's performance was just Charlie Chaplin-esque in the brilliance of her facial expressions, and just out of control her character was. I watched the Eurovision Song Contest with my girlfriend. She was on Skype. We watched a couple movies together with while we're sitting together on Skype, which is kind of cute. We watched the Eurovision Song Contest with Will Ferrell. That was a cute movie. The best thing about it is it's worth watching it just for the camera shots of Iceland and the camera shots of Edinburgh. And I did the Edinburgh Festival in 2014, and it's just so cool to see just the shots of Edinburgh, especially the drone footage. I really loved it. We also watched Mean Girls, which I had never seen before, which my girlfriend thought everybody should see. It's a good flick. And then we watched this movie, Booksmart. So I've been on kind of a hooray for women movie watching spree. God, I don't know why it's hard finding my words right now. But anyway, I really enjoyed that movie, Booksmart. I thought it was cool. And here's what I've been doing. So my mom's gone. I've been focused on all this work. And there's been days where I haven't left my apartment. Like I didn't leave my apartment all day yesterday. I did laundry. I actually cleaned my stovetop. Who knows? God, I haven't, it's been months since I cleaned the top of that stove. But yeah, didn't leave the apartment. My big outside fresh air moment was sitting on the balcony in my underwear. Highly recommend that to everybody if you don't have a visible. I think that was something in Victorian England years ago where people would they'd nude sunbathe in their home, like by the windows. They'd lie on the floor where the sun come in. I think I read something about that years ago. So in the last week, I've taken a couple of drives. So all the record stores, like most businesses are still closed in Los Angeles. I mean, like the Beverly Center Mall is closed. Amoeba Music, which is this big record store that I love, was closed. So Ventura, California is like an hour drive from here. And I Googled best record store in Ventura. And this record store called Grady's popped up. And so I just wanted to take a drive. And I go to Ventura. It's like an hour drive. And it's a great little record store. It's the kind of record store I love to find when I travel around places in America. It's really small and independently owned by a white guy named Grady. How great is that name? Grady? Remember Sanford and Son? Grady was my favorite. Grady was Fred Sanford's best friend. So I drive out there, and I'm looking at their records. I found some great Willie Nelson records for $4. Found a couple of Waylon Jennings records for like $7. Nice, reasonably priced place where you can find 5 or 6 things, and you're not it's not too much money. So I really enjoyed this record store, and I'm in there, and it's small, and I got my mask on, and I'm not wearing, like the first month when the virus hit, I was wearing gloves every time I left the house. I was with my mom. We didn't know what was out there. We were scared shitless. But I'm not wearing gloves now when I go out. I wear the mask, and then I always make sure I've got like some paper towels folded up. So I got my little paper towels, and I'm like flicking through these records, and I hear this woman. She looked like a kind of a hippie mom, maybe in her 40s, and she's talking to Grady. She said, "I wanted to ask you about the all-in-one players that they sell now, that plays a record and CD and cassettes." And Grady said to her, "Yeah, I don't recommend that if you're thinking about being a serious record collector. You need to spend like $100 on a good turntable, and you need to get a speaker system, a decent speaker system set up." And I'm sitting there, and I vehemently disagreed with Grady, and I wanted to tell this woman, and I was tempted to like follow her out to her car, but I didn't want to like creep her out or seem weird. And just in this virus world that we live in, I kept my head down with my mask on, and I'm just looking through the records and shit on the other side of the store. But I have the all-in-one player. It's a Victrola. Victrola makes these beautiful all-in-one players, and they're only like $100. I think they're like $90 to like about $150, and they're beautiful. They got all kinds of different styles, and I love the all-in-one player because, like, you can go to thrift stores, you can go to a garage sale, a flea market, whatever old media that you find, vinyl records, CDs, or cassettes, you can jam it in this box or play it on this box, and it plays beautifully. And I live in a 1-bedroom apartment. I don't need a massive sound system like it's 1986. I just need something, I still got my, 2000 CD collection, my probably 200 cassette tapes, and I think, probably 3,000 or 4,000 vinyl records that I've purchased, here and there all over the world in my travels. And I really love, if you find something somewhere, like a cassette or a CD or vinyl record, that it plays everything. And I don't know, man, shit. I really wish I'd have spoken up to that woman because she was asking for her daughter. And I love Grady's record store, but I thought Grady was wrong about the all-in-one player. Anyway, it's funny that I take that kind of thing so seriously, and that I actually I've regretted for days that I didn't speak up and tell this woman that Grady was wrong. Anyway, I love Grady. Love Grady's records in Ventura, California. And it's so nice to do something normal, you know. And I was driving there, and I hit some traffic on the 101, and I'm sitting in traffic, and I enjoyed sitting in the traffic because it was like, oh, wow, this is like normal. This is like the way life was before everything turned to shit. And I went to visit a couple of friends in the past week. I went to visit my friend Anthony Dominici, who he's a TV director. He's such a good guy. I'd say he's probably one of the best friends I have in Los Angeles. And we sat by his pool, 6 feet apart from each other. And I got into his pool. I can't believe that's the one and only time that I've gotten into a pool this summer. And you know, we kept our distance from each other and just shot the shit and talked about the world and ourselves and what we were doing, and just really nice to catch up with a friend, and and to bounce around in the shallow end of a pool, you know, with just your neck and your head sticking out. And then when was it? On Friday, I drove down to San Diego and visited my friend Gary, who we just sat in his backyard, and it was lovely. And then we watched the sunset from his backyard out on, if you went up on the top of his deck, you could see the Pacific Ocean in the distance. Could only be seen up from this deck that he built. You couldn't see it from his backyard. But we went to a little taco place. San Diego's got like the greatest taco huts. We got some delicious tacos to go, brought them back to his yard, and his wife made a lovely salad of arugula, Brussels sprouts, and chunks of grapefruit. Hey, that reminds me. I got so much summer fruit right now, the mangoes and the peaches, and I found figs. Figs apparently are back in season, or they are at Trader Joe's anyway. And when I was in Portland last year, I made it earlier. It was earlier this year. My girlfriend and I ate at this restaurant, and they had this salad, and it was chopped up pears, chopped up figs on arugula with feta crumbles in it, and just a light sprinkling of like Kalamata olive oil. Holy shit. So delicious. I think the greatest summer salad of all time. Chopped up pear, chopped up fig, feta crumbles on arugula with a light sprinkling of Kalamata olive oil. So I got my figs. I need to find some pears. And I'm going to recreate that salad magic. What else has been happening? I think that's about it, everybody. I just wanted to say hi, send you some love, and I'm going to meet another friend out in the park across the street in a minute. My friend Max, who's an actor, and I'm just staying 6 feet away from everybody, wearing a mask, washing the shit out of my hands, and playing country music records when when I'm working on this. There's a funny record I bought at Grady's, and it was put out by the Pepsi Cola Corporation in 1963, and it's called, let me grab it. Shit. Okay, had to buy this. It's called Adventures in Negro History, and it's like a history record, and the Pepsi Cola Corporation put it out. Interesting, when people still use the term Negro. And wow, 1963 perspective from Pepsi Cola, which I guess that was a pretty woke thing for them to put out in 1963. But just strange little artifacts that I love picking up from my record collection, and I'm happy to God. I like I said before, I think my whole life was building up to this COVID-19 lockdown with having all these books and all these records and all these music. And It sucks to not perform stand-up comedy, and it sucks to not have my brain thinking about jokes and always preparing jokes and always preparing like new jokes and that I want to try, and working on set lists for different, if it's a short set or a long set. I miss that kind of sports muscle. That's a wrong term. I'm not a big sports fan. Well, I am. I like soccer and I like baseball. And but whatever, the comedy muscle of preparing and staying sharp, I've not been doing that. And God, I'm just rambling now. But it is cool to be listening to these recordings of all these big theater shows I did in England last year. And I'm really excited about this album, which I'm going to be putting out next month. And I'm going to call it the Honky Motherland, because that's what I think England, Ireland, and Scotland is. And wow, that's about it, everybody. That's my Tom Rhodes update. And what's happening? I think I'm going to go to Portland in a couple weeks, visit my girlfriend, and that should be pretty exciting with all the shit that's happening in Portland. But I don't care about anything but, just I need a hug. I need a big, long hug. Starting to see friends is good for my brain. Reaching out to friends that I know are isolated and lonely, I know is good for their brains. But, man, I miss having a good, long hug. I haven't had anybody to hug since my mom left. Anyway, I'm mailing the postcards to my Patreon subscribers tomorrow. And wherever you're at in the world, I hope the summer's treating you right. Hopefully you've gotten into a pool. Hopefully you're eating a mango and then a peach and going back and forth. Hopefully you're sitting in your balcony on your underwear. And wow, that's it. I love you all very much. Hooray for summer. Hooray for you. Hooray for humanity. And long may you run, everybody. Hello, my honey. Hello, my baby. Hello, my ragtime gal. Hey, I just wasn't ready to say goodbye to you yet. So yesterday, I recorded everything that you just heard so far on this podcast. And then I had to go out to the park across the street, Pan Pacific Park. I'm so in love with this park, especially going out there in the evening. My mom and I would we would walk twice a day. We would walk in the morning, and then we would do our evening walk. And there's so much activity happening out there. People are exercising, people boxing, people walking dogs. And yesterday, after I recorded the first part of this podcast, I met my friend Max, who is an actor. And it's interesting how I met Max. I think it was 2 or 3 years ago when my mom was here visiting me. I didn't have a car, and I put her in a Lyft or an Uber to go to the airport. And this guy called me up and he said, hey, my name is Max, and I'm the driver that drove your mom to the airport. And I just want you to know that she's a lovely woman and she made it there safely. And it turns out he's also Argentinian. And I got together with the guy a few times and then we became friends. But he was the Uber driver that drove my mom to the airport a few years ago. So I met him out in the park at a safe distance. And I think nature is the key right now. Just to go out and enjoy nature, watch the sunset. Wherever I am, I've been watching the sunset at the end of the day. And just having this park to see greenery and the trees whose names my mother and I learned. It's just good for the brain to get a little nature blast in there. So Max was telling me he heard that when TV and film production comes back, you're going to have to sign a 6-month contract and be isolated with the film or TV crews, and that's how filming is going to go for the next few years. We'll see if that's bullshit. I don't know. But Max is a good guy. Sat out there, shot the shit with him. I'm really enjoying seeing some friends. because I've been kind of lonely since my mom left. And he was asking me about, do I miss stand-up? Of course I miss stand-up. And like I was saying earlier, I miss developing jokes. I miss being in the mental framework of just always trying to come up with jokes. And I was telling Max, one of the best new jokes that I was doing when all this shit hit was, here, I'll lay it on you. My girlfriend is from Portland. Shit, I fucked it up. She lives in Portland. My girlfriend is, okay. Anyway, take two. My girlfriend is from Toronto, and she really loves Drake. So I've been trying to listen to Drake because my girlfriend likes him. But I don't like Drake because he writes songs for guys who cry in the shower. My girlfriend is Muslim. I can't believe I fucked this joke up so bad. But it gets worse. Well, not the fuck. I've totally fucked this joke up. All right, scratch it. My girlfriend is from Toronto, and she's Muslim. And she likes Drake. And I've been trying to get into Drake, but I've been listening to a couple of albums of his, and I don't really like Drake because Drake writes songs for guys who cry in the shower. It gets worse. Her father really loves the band Rush. Listen, I'll convert to Islam, but I'm not pretending that I like Rush. Okay, that was the joke. I fucked it up because I didn't want to say it gets worse because she was Muslim, because that's not how I did the joke. It gets worse because she likes Drake and her father loves Rush. So that was the it gets worse part. Anyway, I'm so glad I recorded this second part to the podcast, and then I just fucked up my one great new joke that I was doing when the virus hit. Here's something that I thought of today. When do we stop thinking of grocery store employees as heroes? And when are we allowed to go back to thinking that some of them are incompetent morons? Anyway, the people at my grocery store, some of them are good and some of them, anyway. I just talked to my friend Gil King, who's helping me with my book. He's going to need surgery. He's having like some spine, back problems. So he's kind of out of it for a few weeks. So the cheerful news that I was sharing about the book, I'm really happy about it. It's something I've been working on for years, and he's helped me with it. But it's just going to have to wait until we can do the book proposal now. And Alex, the guy who's editing my album, 2 months ago, his wife had a baby. So then he had to, enjoy being a brand new father for a month before we could get back to work on the album. So there's been some delays, but, life happens. Shit happens to people, surgeries, babies, all kinds of things. I'm just grateful that I'm healthy and my mom's healthy and everyone I love is healthy. And, setbacks here and there, it's part of life, baby. So the train keeps rolling, and hopefully these massive, huge projects of mine will be coming out before too long. Regis Philbin died. Now, for those of you who don't live in the United States, Regis Philbin was this TV host who was just on TV forever in America. He was on a morning show called Regis and Kathy Lee with Kathy Lee Gifford, and for years. And then Kathy Lee left, and this woman Kelly took her place, and then it became Regis and Kelly. But like my dad used to watch this morning show like every morning. It was like a staple of American television. But way back in the 80s, when cable television came on, before he had that morning television show, he had this afternoon show on the USA Network. And he had Cheryl Tiegs on. I used to like watching him in the afternoon. He was kind of funny. He was kind of a smart ass. And he said that we're taking phone calls for our guest, Cheryl Tiegs, who was a really hot model at the time. And I was like 15 years old, and I called up, and I got on, And Regis Philbin says, we got Tom Rhodes from Oviedo, Florida. How old are you, Tom? I'm 15. Hey, Regis, really love the show. Okay, do you have a question for Cheryl Teagues? And I said, yeah, Cheryl, I was wondering, would you go to the prom with me? And Regis Philbin goes, get out of here, you pervert. And he hung up on me. And it was kind of it was funny, but I think, kind of an easy, cheap shot by the television host. And, but, I was a goofy 15-year-old kid, and I was just trying to be funny. I thought Regis would get a kick out of it. So, Regis Philbin, an American staple of television, has passed. And the other thing I saw on the Portland riots last night, I read more articles about it. And did you see this thing? Like, there was the Wall of Moms, which I thought was really cool. It reminded me of the mothers in Argentina, the mothers of the disappeared, who went out to the square every week on Thursdays and banged their pots. They made a change or brought attention to what was happening in Argentina in the 70s and early 80s. And it kind of reminded me of that. And then articles I read about the moms in Portland where they're all white women and they're kind of taking over the Black Lives Matter movement. Nonetheless, whatever criticism, I think it's cool that there was a wall of moms. And then there were also, there's a wall of teachers and a wall of vets. And these unmarked police people or federal agents, whatever they are, they're shooting CS gas, which is banned in warfare, but for some reason it's okay to shoot that at American citizens who are protesting. So there's this wall of dads with leaf blowers, and they're wearing orange shirts to complement the mothers who are in the yellow shirts. And I thought that was pretty cool that they shoot this CS gas, these federal unmarked agents, which is totally unconstitutional, and to hold people against without their Miranda rights, without reading them the rights, without any paperwork, and putting them in unmarked vans. That's like American democracy has evaporated by these acts. You just can't do that. So these dads are jumping out with leaf blowers and blowing the CS gas backwards to the federal agents. I mean, they've got gas masks on and everything, but what an amazing time in history we're living through. I'm going up to Portland next month. I'm sure shit's still going to be going crazy, and I'm going to document as much of it as I can. I'm not going to go out and get involved or get hurt, but it's going to be kind of exciting being at ground zero where, some serious shit is happening in the United States. So, let's just end the podcast with, I played this last night when I was chilling out. This is from 1963. This was put out by the Pepsi-Cola Corporation, and it's called Adventures in Negro History. Back then, people used that word. Pepsi said it, not me.
The Civil War began on April the 12th, 1861. Lincoln's earlier words of prophecy, "A house divided against itself cannot stand," proved true. Extreme conflicts between the industrial North and the agricultural South, abolitionists and slave owners, those who wish to extend the region of slavery, and those who wish to arrest its extension, these conflicts and many more raced past the point of reason. And Americans fought Americans. Many Northerners felt that the war would soon be over. They were sure that the Northern troops would quickly overcome the Army of the South. Northern soldiers marched to war full of confidence. However, the armies of the Confederacy fought relentlessly, and Northern armies suffered several crucial defeats. By the summer of 1862, the Union was in dire need of added manpower to put down the rebellion of the South. Midsummer 1862, here are the words of Lincoln. Things had gone from bad to worse until I felt we had reached the end of our rope on the plan of operation we had been pursuing, that we had about played our last card and must change our tactics or lose the game. I now determined upon the adoption of the emancipation policy. In September of 1862, Lincoln informed the South that he would issue a proclamation which would free all slaves found in areas which were in rebellion against the United States. The proclamation was to be rendered on January 1st, 1863. On January 1st of 1863, the day of promise arrived, and then Lincoln's proclamation. That on the first day of January, in the year of our Lord 1863, all persons held as slaves within any state or designated part of a state, the people whereof shall then be in rebellion against the United States, shall be then, thenceforward, and forever free.
Ta-da! And then the North won the war, and then the South wasn't properly punished, and then Confederate statues went up, and then Donald Trump was elected, and then Portland sold a lot of leaf blowers. I think it's funny that the Pepsi Corporation chose a really dorky white guy to do that narration. But that was 1963, before Martin Luther King Jr. Had come to prominence. Anyway, it's an interesting time in American history, and I hope you're having a wonderful summer wherever you're at. I just wanted to come on and shoot you a little more love. I hope you're getting lots of summer fruits. Hope you're enjoying some sunsets. Hope you're putting your feet in the pool. Whatever you're doing, wherever you're at, I hope you're happy. I hope you're healthy. Hope you're safe. And I love you very much. Thank you for listening to my podcast. And shalom, amigos, amigas. And may each one of you run for a very long time. Hooray and hallelujah. Hooray for humanity.
Tom Rhodes, you're a funny man. Tom Rhodes, you're an international comedian. Tom Rhodes, karate kick, baby, oh yeah. Tom Rhodes, you're a groovy dude. You go all around the world, telling jokes to all of the people. You are an international comedian. You're funny to everybody in every single country in the world. Tom Rhodes, I like you very much. I think you're talented and very wonderful. Tom Rhodes, you're the best guy in the world. I wanna be your friend, you should call me sometime. Here is my phone number, 603-644-0048. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Tom Rhodes, you're an international comedic sensation. Tom Rhodes, I like to listen to your podcast. Tom Rhodes, you're the best man to ever walk on the earth.